Hello guys, it's Kene once again. Right, so today I will be talking about using dates and time in Python, right? And to do that, it's we can help ourselves with the datetime module, that's available in Python. So that's basically what I'll be talking about today, the datetime module, but with a particular focus on the datetime class of the datetime module. I'm going to share my screen, guys. Okay, so what will I be talking about? The datetime module. There are different classes within the datetime module that enable us to perform, computations of dates and time, right? So the time class, that's what it is for, creating and manipulating time. The date class for dates. The datetime class has, features of the two, date and time, as a single object, right? So that's what we use the datetime class for, to create, manipulate datetime objects, right? So now about the time delta, it's basically a representation of, duration between times, between dates and times, right? So the time delta provides us, with the functionalities of differences between dates, between times, and that's it for the time delta. The TZ info class. All right, so how do I put this? It's an abstract class, guys, an abstract base class which um, provides information about time zone, right? So that's what it is, TZ, time zone information. So it provides us time zone information. But the thing is, it cannot be instantiated directly. So that's it. It's an abstract class. And so it has to be derived by some other class, a subclass. And that's why we have in Python the time zone class. So the time zone derives, from the TZ info class. It is the time zone class that provides implementation for the methods that are in the time zone info class. Okay, so guys, I'm trying to make this not sound too technical. So I'm just going to use practical examples to show us how to create and manipulate or work with datetime objects in Python. Right. So guys, let's get right into it. What will I be doing, guys? I'm going to show us how to create datetime objects, okay, in different ways. And I will be talking about the differences between what we call time zone naive date time and time zone aware date time. Right. Okay, so guys, let's see. I'm going to create time now using the datetime class of the datetime module. So I'll say dt1, right, and just get datetime module, datetime class, and method of datetime class now. That's it. It's as easy as that. And just to see what we have, time created, dt1, and voila, that's it. So I have information about the date and the time along with microseconds. So this part is the microseconds part. Right, so that's what it is. But it's also possible to create datetime object just by, using the constructor of the datetime class, and I provide the parameters as integers. So let's see, guys, dt2 datetime. So the datetime module and then the datetime class within that. Then I provide the parameters in form of integers, 2023, the year, and then it's the month of April, that is just for, and then it's what day? I think it's the 6th day of April. Right, so I can end at this point, just provide these three compulsory or necessary arguments, right? Then just to see what we have here, print dt2, and let's see, right? So yeah, we see that default 0 is used for the time, hours, minutes, and seconds. But I can set that right here, provide hours 14, and then the minutes, say 30 and 35 for the seconds. And let's see, guys. So that is also set right here immediately. Okay, so that's how you create datetime just by using the datetime class constructor. Right. So guys, going forward, is it also possible to create datetime objects by using the from timestamp method of that class, of the datetime class? Sure, it is. And we'll see, guys. What I'm just doing, now is creating datetime objects by different means. That's what it is basically. I'll create another object, datetime. That's datetime class. Then I would have the from timestamp. From timestamp, it's a function, of the datetime class. Right. So now, guys, the question is, what is timestamp? We need to understand it. Now, epoch time is simply the time at midnight first, that is at least in Python, 1st January 1970. That's epoch time. And then the timestamp is just the number of seconds from that time, midnight, 1st January 1970, to whatever time it is, or this time. So from that time to this time, what's the number of seconds that's returned is called the timestamp. So I'm going to create a date from timestamp, the number of seconds from 1st January 1970 to this time. Okay, so just let me get the current timestamp. I think there's a website converts or get timestamp online. Okay, right. So which one? I should take this because I've used this before. And what I want to do is just get current timestamp from here, copy that. Okay, so right away, put this here. Okay, so that's it. The current timestamp, I will see the datetime object that is, initialized. DT4, DT3, which I'm going to just print out, guys. DT3, and voila. Isn't that magic? So that's it. I've used a timestamp to create a datetime object, and we'll see that it's correct, right? It's 1:57 p.m. As of the time I got the timestamp, it was just 12 seconds. All right, so that's it. That's how you create datetime object from timestamp. So there's a method, a from timestamp method of the datetime class, should you wish to create datetime objects from timestamp. Okay, so that's it, guys. Now, is it also possible, are there other ways, still to create datetime objects? I would say yes. And I'm going to create a fourth object, which, which I will get from calling the from ISO format. Again, ISO is a standard for representing dates and time, right? An internationally recognized standard for representing dates and time. So it has its own format. Basically, the date, and then normally you will see it represented with a T just before you have the time, a capital T. Let me just show us, guys. Datetime, date time. and just get from ISO format. So what's the time that I want to create? I mean, what's the date time that I want to create? I need to provide that, right? Okay. So 2023, that's the year. And then the month is April and the day is 6th. Just something like this. And let's see what that gives us. DT4. Voila. We see that datetime is created. Isn't that, I mean, it's quite simple, isn't it? Quite simple. And I could also provide a time segment of it. Say 13, 13, just give zeros here for the minutes and the seconds. Or this should be 14 rather. And then I see what that gives us. Right, so that again shows the time segment of the datetime object. Okay, guys, so we continue. Now, again, I'm going to create a datetime object, but this time I'm going to use a function called strptime. String, I should suppose string parse time. This will enable me to create datetime from string. Okay, so let's see how that works, guys. dt5 datetime dot datetime dot from. I mean, sorry, I've done the from. So strp time, which is string parse time. Okay, and what are the arguments I should provide? Yes, so there's a string part. You know that I want to pass time from string, create time, datetime from string, right? So I'm going to provide the string that needs to be passed and provide some directions, right? The direction, in what format basically should the time be created, the datetime be created. So the string first should be 2023, and the month could be anything this time, I mean, and 01. So that's the string that I want passed as a datetime object. Now, in what form should that come? That will be the directive. So I need to provide directives for it. And guys, there's no point. Even I haven't really memorized directives in Python, right? You could just, yeah, go online. You know what format you want to, create your datetime in. And all you need to do is to look it up. Okay, so I will just provide very basic directive for passing my time, and that's the year, the year, the month. So you see, I'm using the percentage sign before the calendar item, the month, and of course the second. I mean the year, the month, and the day rather. So the day is I should say D. Yeah. So that's it if I remember right. And guys, the two must have the same format. So you see that here it's a dash. The items are separated each by a dash. And that's what I have provided here as a directive: year, month, and the day. So let's just see what that gives us, guys. So you see how easy it is. It creates datetime object. Now let's see if that's actually the case, guys. Let's prove it. So type, I just want to check what object type it is. So print the type of object instead of the object itself. We see that it's a datetime object, and that was realized from a string. Something as simple and as basic as that. The next, guys, I want to talk about is using some other modules, helper modules, to create date time objects. I have been talking about date and time that are not placed within a particular frame with respect to a common or universal standard. So these times I have been creating, I could say that they are not attached to any particular place. They're not attached to any geographical area, right? They just exist on their own, and that's not practicable. It's not practical to just have time that is not available in a given place. It cannot exist. Time cannot exist on its own. It has to be set within a place, right? And that brings me to the concept of time zones, and that again will lead to understanding time zone aware and time zone naive date time. If you guys get what I mean. So there's a world standard, that's the coordinated universal time, the UTC. It's actually considers, it's based on the astronomical time from the Earth rotation. As the Earth rotates, um, time fluctuates or time gets affected. And so the UTC is taken as the standard against which other times, are referenced, if you understand what I mean. So guys, I have been creating time datetime objects that are time zone naive, that is having no time zone attachment. And we can see, if I have this dt and I try to, and I get the tz info and I run, we see that there is none. So provided that this tz info is none, then we know that the date time is time zone naive or time zone unaware. Okay, so what I want to do, guys, now is to create datetime objects that are time zone aware, that is attached to a particular geographical area. Okay, so say for example in Nigeria, what's the national standard that is used or spoken of in relation to the world standard, which is the UTC. Okay, so I know for working purposes, it's the Africa Lagos time zone. But let's see it in action, guys. So I'm going to use a module called dateutil module, and yet another one called the pytz module. I have already imported my dateutil module, and from that I will get the tz, which is what I need for now, the tz class. Okay, and then I've also imported the pytz library. Now I'm going to create my time zone aware object, dt6, and just have datetime. The datetime, I'm going to use the time now, so call the now method. The now method, just as it is now, doesn't have any time zone information, so it's time zone naive. Let's see if that's the case. We see that time zone is none, right? But what I want to do is assign or give it time zone information so that it's set to a particular place. And what I can do is use the tz class of the datetime of the dateutil module as a parameter for my now method. Let's see how that works, guys. So use tz and call the tz get tz method. And what this does, the method does is actually just creates time zone object there. Okay, so I will provide as a string the time zone, and that should be Africa, Lagos. So there's a time zone now attached to it, and if I print the time zone information, I'll see what that gives us. So Africa, Bangui, and I'm going to see what it also gives us. Now look at what's ends it here. We have information about the time zone. Now plus 01, that is 1 hour. It's simply saying 1 hour after the UTC, right? So it's 1 hour ahead of UTC, 1 hour. And we can actually see it in action, guys. Let me just print the two. You know, DT1 is time zone unaware or time zone naive. I'll just print that so that we can compare the two. We see that no time zone information is attached to the datetime created by the now method without the TZ library to create the time zone. Okay, right. So guys, now it is also possible to create a time zone aware object by using the pytz module. Because I will need to understand these things, because in practical terms, you need to set time zones for your datetime objects. That's what it is, really. And I'm going to do that by creating yet another object, datetime, or datetime. And then I have now, right. Now, instead of using the datetime, the dateutil module for this, I'm going to use the tz rather, py, right, pytz, and the time zone method, and then therein I can set the time zone. Okay, so what's the time zone? I should say this time let me go for America, New York. Okay, so DT7, I don't need this again. DT7, and we'll see what that gives us. All right, so guys, we see that this time it's a -4. That is, it's -4 hours, behind. How do I put it now? It's 4 hours before UTC, right? Before the time at UTC standard. That's why there's a minus. And the thing is that as it progresses eastwards, it gets the positive marker, and the line to the west, it gets a negative marker. So we see here that it's going to be forming. So UTC is actually ahead of time in New York, America, New York. That's what it's saying, basically. All right, guys. So those are two ways of creating time zone aware objects. Let's take it again. The first, I use the TZ class of the dateutil module, which I imported right here. And then secondly, I use the pytz library and access the time zone object to get the time zone. Right, guys. I hope we get that. I'm a bit fast, but that's because I need to cover what I've set out to cover. Now, the next thing, guys, let's consider a method that's like the now method. So it creates the time now, but it's supposed to be the time in UTC, the so-called standard. You know, some use it interchangeably. The GMT, that's the UTC, but then the UTC is based on Earth rotation, not just a fixed meridian time, right? It's based also on the rotation of the Earth. So that's astronomical time that is based on the rotation of the Earth, guys. Using the UTC now method, okay, you get time in UTC, but that's something that we are not going to be too sure of. It gives us time in UTC, but it doesn't have time zone attached to it. So it's like somebody wearing the uniform, the military uniform of a certain country. So the person is wearing the uniform, but doesn't really know what country it is serving in, if you get what I mean. So I'm wearing the uniform of, say, Nigerian Army, but I don't even know that I am a soldier or an officer in the Nigerian Army. That's what it's like. So it's still nationality unaware, but it knows that it's in the military. So that's something we need to take into consideration, guys, when dealing with UTC time. You must assign a time zone to it, even though it is supposed to be UTC time. Let me show us, guys, what I mean. DT8 datetime dot datetime. Now, instead of calling the now method, I'm going to call the UTC now method. So just calling this, we'll see what that gives us. Right. I mean, my time now is 2, right? It's past 2. And recall that the time Africa Lagos is actually 1 hour ahead of UTC. So if the time now is past 2, then I suppose since it's 2:17, then it's going to be 1:17 in UTC time. So we see that it's actually UTC. UTC time gets returned. But it doesn't identify itself as UTC time, even though it has the appearance of UTC. That's what I'm saying. So we need to assign a time zone to it, just to be sure that it's actually UTC time. So how do we do that, guys? I'm going to use a method called the as time zone method, and just get the as time zone. Call the as time zone on this datetime object. So I'm not assigning it to a variable. I'm just going to chain the as time zone method to it. As time zone, and what should be that time zone? It's going to be like an object of the of an object of the datetime class, right? So let's see, guys, as time zone, which should be tz dot get tz. So I'm calling that method there to retrieve the time zone object. Then I would provide the time zone, which in this case is UTC. It's as simple as that. Remember, guys, I want to actually assign it a time zone, a UTC time zone. Okay, so that's how easy it is. And if I run my method, I see what's created there. So it's the same time, but now I know that it is UTC. That is exactly UTC, not ahead, not behind. So that's one way, of making sure that your UTC time from the UTC now method is actually UTC time. Then you can use as time zone method. Secondly, guys, you can use the pytz module to do the same thing. So create another function, dt9 datetime dot datetime dot utc now. Right. So this time, instead of calling as time zone method, I'm going to do it a bit differently. Yeah, just allow me, guys. I'm going to do something a bit differently. I just thought about it now. Why don't I just use the localize localize method? So I have my datetime object here. Okay, but first I need to create pytz time zone, assign it a time zone, which is simply UTC. Okay, so let me just call this time zone UTC, just like that. Right, so the time zone UTC is the time zone object. Then I'm going to localize it to UTC, right? The time that I have, which is time zone naive. I'm going to localize it to UTC. So I'll just call the localize method and provide the datetime object. Just as simple as that. Right. Guys, let's understand what I did here. I created time zone object, and on that object, I call the localize method. And the parameter is the datetime object I want to localize to this UTC. So DT now, and run my program. I see what that gives us, guys. I have datetime object, and it is UTC time, as we can see there, 0. Hope you understand. So that's how easy it gets. You can just take a few moments to watch this part of the video again to understand how we create these time zone aware date objects. Okay, so that's it, guys. Now I'm going to use the dateutil module, but this time the parser class is what I'm going to make use of, right? And what does the parser, what can we do with the parser class? When we looked at string pass time, strp time, to pass string to time, convert string to time. This does the same thing. But the beauty of this, the upside of this parser class is that you don't need to give directives. It can tell. It just knows. It's ingenious. It just knows it just guesses, and most times it is correct, the format of the date time, right? That's the beauty of the datetime parser. But some would argue that the downside is the overhead. the overhead cost, the extra overhead cost for doing all the checks and determining which which format you have provided. Okay, so but it's your take. I can't say it must be this, either the strp time method or the dateutil.parser class. It all depends on you. So let's see the use of the dateutil.parser class. Although this here is more is more modern, using the dateutil module. So we want to stick to the dateutil module. Okay, so guys, let's see. Have this as dt10, and I'm going to use the parser, and the method there is the pass method of the parser class, and just provide the time, right, as a string. So I'm just going to have 2023, or just some other date, 1999. Can even have it as this 03 March and 03, that's 3rd March 1999. And it knows, it's just going to guess it intelligently what this format is. And that's how you create your datetime object. So let's see, guys, if that's what it is. So print, and I see dt10. See what that gives us. Voila. I mean, isn't that miraculous? It knows that this is valid string to create a datetime object. How? And I can even have this as a slash and have this as a slash, and I run. I still get, this is not something possible using strptime. I mean, for that, you need to provide directives for it to use. And if there's any error somewhere, a typo somewhere, it's just going to crash. So I mean, this is a better deal, isn't it? Right. So I can ask it, explicitly to take the day first in terms of the date format. Take the day first before the month. And to set that, I would use a name parameter called day first. Day first, and set that to true. Okay, so if I run the program, I see, yeah, so this time, regardless of which comes before which, regardless of which comes before which, whether it's the day or the month, if you set day first to true, because the default is false, if you set it to true, it's going to take the first of these two as the day. So this will be read as 3rd March instead of March the 3rd. So it doesn't now matter if I have this now, let's say something more than 31, say 32. It's simply going to know, oh, come on, there's no day that is 30, there's no month that has 32 days. So let's see, guys. I mean, look at it, an error, right? Day is out of range. It's out of range. There is no month that has 32 days. But if I set this to false, then it's going to take this as the day. And okay, this is still going to be the month, which is still more than 12. More than 12. Okay, let's say I have this as 14. and I have this as 12, right? And I set this to true, set this to true. Now it's going to take this as the day. Day first is true, and this will be the month, and then it runs into an error. Like, why do we have 14 instead of a maximum 12? So let's see. Day first, true. Okay, so this is the, oh, sorry guys. Yeah, this is the day. This is the day, 12th. And then I don't know why it's giving us this when it should be an error. This should be the month. This should be the month. And there aren't 12 months in the year. So it forces it. I see that it forces it, right, to make this 12 the month and this 14 the day. I think that's just what has happened. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to just be sure of that. Just call the month. Just get the month attribute and 12. Right. So exactly that's it. So the 12 is the month and the 14 is the day. Wow, that's good. All right, guys. So I hope we learned something. I'm going to continue my discussion of the datetime module. There's a lot to learn, and I really encourage us to, take the time to watch these videos and practice along. It would help your aspirations of becoming an expert Python programmer. Right, so I'm going to stop, take a pause at this point, and I will post this video, then continue with other videos. Right, do have a great day, and I'll see you in the next lesson.